take a look at some of the Week 12 action in AFL. Let's get the force wins and sim games out of the way. The important notes there: KJ's Packers actually won a sim game, wasn't a force win a sim game to improve to 10-1 over Justin Thomas's Washington Redskins. Dan Quinn's Ravens get a victory over the vacant Philadelphia Eagles. My Buffalo Bills get a force win over Vane's Patriots. And then with Bailey being on vacation this week, it's going to crush his playoff chances. Reese gets a 41-13 victory. The score doesn't matter, it was a force win. But the important thing there is the Dolphins improve to 8-3, which puts them in solid position as far as the AFC wildcard goes. So let's talk about the games that actually did take place on the field. And the biggest one of the week is going to be Roman's St. Louis Rams with a major win over Prime's Arizona Cardinals. Roman wins 19-14, and the Rams now have the sole possession of first place in the the NFC West, and the Cardinals on a 2-game losing streak fall to 7-4, tied for second with Danny Sanchez's San Francisco 49ers, who beat Prime a week before. So 2 losses in a row for Prime, not ideal. Joker improves his record to 10-1, I believe. Yeah, 10-1 with a 45-0 drubbing of Sham. How about Guru? A big win by the Saints, 31-28 over Cody. Both of these teams needed this victory in the worst way, and Guru gets it to improve to 6-5 to stay neck and neck with JD in the NFC South race. And for Cody, that loss drops him to 8-3 on the season, ties him with Reese at 8-3 for the 5th seed in the AFC. And when you know it, these two play this week coming up in AFL. E-Dub completes the season sweep over SJR with a 28-17 victory over the Jaguars. With the win, E-Dub improves to 7-4. He's now on a 3-game winning streak. SJR falls to 6-5, and he's also lost both games of the season to E-Dub, so it's basically a 1.5 game lead in the AFC South for E-Dub at this point. Trump's Tampa Bay Buccaneers get a 50-14 victory over Mega's Denver Broncos. Not a lot to be said here as far as the playoffs go, but still a big win by Trump and the Bucs. Danny Sanchez keeps rolling with his 49ers, a 28-9 victory over Garland Chicago Bears. For Danny Sanchez, he's 7-4 now, tied for second in the NFC West. The Bears are out of the race. Pick 6 gets a 42-35 victory over Swag. For Picks Chargers, not really too impactful as far as the playoffs go. It's only their 2nd win of the year. They're 2-9. For Swag, an absolutely crushing defeat as the Browns were 5-5. They fall to 5-6. Consistency has haunted Swag throughout all of Madden 16, and it looks like it's continuing this year, as I think his season has now come to an end. Just too much ground to make up in the AFC wildcard picture. Stokes stays perfect on the season, 28-21 over Luca's Indianapolis Colts. The Colts fall to 5-6, and Stokes improves to 11-0. Hard-fought game. Luca had the ball late, but had about 90 yards to go with 9 seconds left. That's just too much ground to make up. Stop Cheesin' falls to Nino, 31-9 for Nino. He keeps pace in the NFC North to improve to 9-2. Cheese falls to 7-4, but still no real risk at losing out on the NFC East. He has a 3-game lead over Mustangs Cowboys, but what is going to do is probably force Cheesin'. Not probably, he still has a good shot at the 2nd seed, but Cheesin needs to put some wins together to avoid playing on wildcard weekend. For Nino, gives him a shot to be within 1 game of KJ. They still have a game against each other, so everything is still in front of Nino in the NFC North. Cheese Jr. smashes the new Houston Texans owner. I believe his name is Philly Dealer or something. This is so bad. We'll just call him Philly for now. We'll get to know him as we move along. Welcome to the league, by the way, Philly. Cheese Jr. 38-3. Big win by the Lions. Stokes called this a few weeks back that the Lions might be a team to contend with, and there they sit 8-3 in the NFC North, which unfortunately in that division is good for 3rd place. But as far as the wild card situation goes in the NFC, he is right in the hunt, and right now at the season ended today, he would have a wild card spot, so good for Cheese Jr. How about Mustang? 47-3 over Justin King's Cincinnati Bengals. Justin King falls and his Bengals fall to 4-7. Mustang falls to 4-7. Neither one of these teams look to be making a run for the tournament, but still it's good to see Mustang get a big win there. And then JD's Atlanta Falcons, they hold serve in the NFC South race, 26-7 victory over Kimmy. The Falcons are now 6-5. Let's take a look around the AFL standings after Week 12. Let's start with the AFC and the AFC North. This looks like Joker's division all the way, 10-1. The next closest team is Dan Quinn's Ravens, who are hanging on in the wild card race, but the division race appears to be well out of hand. In the AFC South, this one is a little closer. Edub 7-4, SJR sitting there at 6-5, but SJR and Luca both lost last week, which hurts, and Edub has 2 victories over SJR. So even though SJR is only a game behind in the win-loss column, he still has some ground to make up with those 2 games dropping to the Titans. In the AFC East, my Buffalo Bills are 10-1. The next closest team is Reese's Dolphins, 8-3. Both my Bills and Reese's Dolphins are on pace to make the playoffs. Vane at 4-7 and Sham at 2-9, with the Jets are look to be playing for next year. In the AFC West, Stokes stays perfect, 11-0. Bailey falls to 8-3 with the disappointing loss to Guru Saints. Mega falls to 4-7 after the drubbing at the hands of Trump. And with his second win of the year, Pick 6 gets to 2-9. So again, 2 teams look to be coming out of this division when it's all said and done as far as the playoffs go. Let's take a look at the AFC stack as far as the entire conference goes. Right now, the Raiders, Bills, and Steelers are all the main teams in contention for those bye spots. The Raiders do have victories over both the Steelers and the Bills, so Stokes is sitting pretty as far as the number 1 seed goes, as long as he takes care of business the rest of the way. And he also would have tiebreakers if he were to stumble along the way throughout the rest of the year. The Bills and Steelers do play in a couple weeks, and that game could decide who gets the 2nd seed. Reese's Dolphins and Reese's Dolphins and Cody's Chiefs are both sitting at 8-3, and they play this week. That's a big game we're going to talk about here in a little bit. And then Edub's Titans are leading the way in the AFC South, and SJR's Jaguars and Dan Quinn's Ravens are 2 games behind as far as the wild card goes. But as we talked about before, the Chiefs and the Dolphins play this week, so one of those teams is going to get a loss. So it's certainly not over with as far as those teams are concerned. Let's take a look at the NFC. We'll start with the NFC North. This might be the most impressive division, as KJ's Packers are 10-1, Nino's Vikings are 9-2, Cheese Jr.'s Lions are 8-3, and the Bears are just taking it on the chin from all those teams, 0-11 on the year. At this point in time, any one of these 3 teams could take the division. Nino definitely has a good look at it with a game coming up against KJ. As long as he can continue to win, that division is both in front of these guys, and what's on the line there is the winner of this division will almost certainly get a bye week, and the loser would have to be not only playing week 1 of the playoffs in the wild card round, but would have to go all the way through the playoffs on the road. KJ did do that last year. Both of these guys are capable of that, but it's really not a very good congratulations to a team that's probably going to win 12 or 13 games to have to play 3 playoff games to get to the Super Bowl, all of which would be on the road. NFC South looks to be a battle between JD and Guru. JD did win the first matchup between these two earlier in the year. They do play down the stretch, but 6-5, they're going to be scoreboard watching as they continue to take care of their own business, and that second game between these two will likely decide the fate of the NFC South. The NFC East still looks to be Cheese's show, with the Giants at 7-4 and no other team above 500. But Cheese did lose 2 games in a row to Joker, and then he lost to Nino. Falls to 7-4. I do apologize. This says he's on a 1-game losing streak, so there must have been a game in between the Joker and Nino game. But Cheese at 7-4 is really going to struggle to get that bye unless he can find a way to win out. The NFC West is going to be fun to keep an eye on as we finish out this year, as Bailey's on vacation now until Sunday, so you can all but eliminate Bailey from any kind of playoff conversation. Right now, Roman is in the driver's seat at 8-3. He has victories over Prime and Danny Sanchez. And Danny Sanchez did beat Prime last week. Roman beat Prime last week. Danny Sanchez beat him the week before. All 3 of these teams have a good look at this division, and they're all in the wild card hunt as well. So the NFC is going to be interesting down the stretch as we take a look at the conference as a whole. Right now, if the playoffs ended today, KJ's Packers would have the 1 seed. Roman's Rams would have the 2 seed at 8-3. And then we'd be looking at, what would we be looking at here? Cheesen's Giants would have the 3 seed, and I believe since JD won the first head-to-head battle with the Saints, JD would have the 4 seed, and then we'd obviously be looking at Nino at the 5 seed, and Cheese Jr.'s Lions with the 6 seed. So the Cardinals with Prime, Danny Sanchez and the 49ers, Guru and the Saints all need to pretty much either win out or keep pace with the other teams. But right now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams fighting for 6 spots in the NFC, and it's going to be super fun to watch down the stretch. Let's take a look at the Week 13 games, as a game with 2 teams not in the playoff contention. Justin Thomas's Redskins take on Justin King's Cincinnati Bengals. Doesn't really matter who wins this game, but both of these teams haven't shown any sign of tanking. Should be a fun game in Cincinnati. A big game going on in Atlanta this week as JD's Falcons take on Stop Cheese's New York Giants. A battle of division leaders, teams needing to win. For Cheese, he needs to win to have a shot at getting a bye week, and JD just has to win to hang on to his slim lead of first place in the NFC South. Speaking of the NFC South, Guru's Saints take their show on the road this week, 6-5. Taking on Kimmy's Panthers. It's been a rough season for Kimmy. Really hasn't put up a lot of a fight against his division rivals. He did have a close game against Stokes earlier this year, but he's 2-9 on the year, and this is the kind of game that if you're Guru, you have to be able to put in the win column if you're going to make the playoffs. Luca's Colts are hanging on by a thread. I would say their season is probably over with the loss this week to Stokes, but at 5-6, they're not mathematically eliminated. They could be after this week against the Tennessee Titans and Edub. Edub seems to be hitting on all cylinders right now at 7-4, and if a couple things go his way, he probably has too much ground to make up as far as getting a bye, but Edub looks to be certainly in control of the AFC South and has his eyes set on that 4th seed in the tough AFC. Speaking of teams that could get a bye in the AFC, Joker's Steelers look to put Dan Quinn's Ravens away, as the Ravens probably only have one more loss in them before they are out of consideration for anything in the AFC. And it's a tough task this week going to Pittsburgh to take on Joker's Steelers. Joker's 10-1, fighting for that bye week in the AFC, all important bye week. So we'll see what happens. I expect Joker to take that game. He's been a tough matchup on Dan Quinn. Quinn's played him close a couple of times, but Joker's won all 3 battles so far between those 3 teams. Eagles and Bears will be a forced win for the Bears. We have Reese's Dolphins hosting Cody's Kansas City Chiefs, a battle of 8-3 teams. Both of these teams right now would make the playoffs if the playoffs started today. They're both the 5-6 team respectively. This is going to be a big game as far as whoever wins this game, I think you can say has a very, very good, highly likely shot of making the playoffs, and whoever loses is going to have to sweat it out down the stretch. So it's going to be a playoff atmosphere in Miami, and I'm excited to see how that game turns out. Swag's Cleveland Browns, after the bummer of a game last week against Pick 6, look to pick themselves up off the ground this week against Matt Vane. The Browns are 5-6, and the Patriots really don't have much to play for, but it should be an interesting game. We'll see if Swag can respond after the disappointing game last week. Danny Sanchez's 49ers will get the forced win over Bailey, who's on vacation. Sham and Mega do battle in New York this week. Both the Broncos and the Jets are out of the playoff race, so this game is more about draft positioning. My Buffalo Bills at 10-1 travel to Arizona to take on Prime's Arizona Cardinals. As we talked about earlier, Prime is on a rare 2-game losing streak, and now he takes on my 10-1 Buffalo Bills. Prime needs a win in the worst way, and my Bills need a win to keep pace with the Steelers and the Raiders in the AFC as far as the bye is concerned. We're going with calling them Philly. Philly's Texans are taking on Pick 6's San Diego Chargers this week. Neither one of these teams are in the playoff race, but we'll see what happens in San Diego. Stokes' Oakland Raiders at 11-0 look to stay perfect, and the challenge this week is Trump's Tampa Bay Bucks. Trump's having a tough year. I believe he only has 2 wins. Let's double check his record real quick. Trump is 2-9 on the year, did smash Mega's Broncos last week, so maybe he'll put up a fight. Trump's not one to tank, but Stokes right now is firing on all cylinders. I would expect the Raiders to win, and probably win big in this contest. Nino's Minnesota Vikings travel to Jacksonville for Sunday Night Football this week. The Vikings need to win to keep pace with KJ's Green Bay Packers, and SJR needs to win to have a shot at closing the gap on the 2 teams fighting for the wild card spot right now. Right now, if the playoffs started, SJR would not make the playoffs. He's going to get the benefit of either the Chiefs or the Dolphins losing this week, and he needs to take advantage, but it's a tough task with Nino's Vikings coming to town. We'll see if SJR is up to the task in this big game between 2 teams that are fighting for playoff positioning. For the Vikings, they're still trying to get that bye week, and for SJR, he's just trying to make the tournament at this point. KJ's Green Bay Packers sitting at 10-1, first place in the NFC North, but it's not a comfortable first place as Nino and Cheese Jr. are right on his heels. He needs to win and needs to hold serve against the Dallas Cowboys and Mustang. Mustang did have a big win last week, but he's a 4-7 team, and if you're KJ, you have to be able to put that game away on Monday Night Football. I look for the Packers to win that game. And then a very interesting game to kick off the week on Thursday Night Football is Cheese Jr.'s Lions go to St. Louis to take on Roman's Rams. Roman is 8-3, currently leading the NFC West. All three NFC West owners are going to be rooting like crazy for the Lions. And then the NFC North owners are going to be rooting like crazy for the Rams, as both of these teams would be in the playoffs if they started today, but the loser of this game is going to look back on this Week 13 game and potentially have a lot of regret about letting this one slip away. It is legitimately going to be a playoff atmosphere in St. Louis. Yes, we'll call it St. Louis because in the game they still play in St. Louis. So that's a look at the Week 13 slate of games. It is Monday night. We advanced at 9 o'clock. Our next advance is 10 o'clock. Our next advance is Wednesday night at 10 o'clock Eastern. Get those games in, get those games scheduled, and we'll talk to you next time on AFL Advance.